Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get Fluent English. I'm Emma.
And I'm Oliver.
We're really happy you're joining us today. Whether you're listening while having breakfast, driving to work, taking a walk, or simply relaxing at home, thank you for spending a little time with us.
Absolutely. And today we're talking about something that every single person has, but that somehow can be surprisingly interesting to talk about.
That's right. We're talking about daily routines.
You know, when I was younger, I used to think routines were boring.
Really?
Yeah, I thought routines were just repetitive things people did every day. Wake up, go to work, come home, go to sleep. Nothing very exciting.
That's funny because I used to think the same thing. But the older I get, the more fascinated I become by other people's routines.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because our routines reveal a lot about who we are. If you want to know what's important to someone, don't ask them what they value. Look at how they spend their day.
That's actually a really good point, because two people can say they care about the same things, but their daily habits can look completely different.
Exactly. And sometimes the smallest habits tell the most interesting stories.
You know what's funny? I love watching videos where people show a day in their life.
Me too. And sometimes nothing extraordinary even happens.
Exactly. Someone makes coffee, answers emails, goes for a walk, cooks dinner, and somehow you're still watching 20 minutes later.
I think it's because routines are something we all share. Everyone has a morning, everyone has responsibilities, everyone has little habits they probably don't even think about.
That actually makes me wonder something. If someone followed you around for an entire day, Emma, what would surprise them the most about your routine?
Oh, wow, that's a dangerous question. I think they would be surprised by how much coffee I drink.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
And what about you? What would people say would be surprising about your daily routine?
Honestly, probably how slowly I start my mornings. I'm not one of those people who jumps out of bed full of energy.
That's good to know, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
So, Oliver, let's start with the big question. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
You know, I wish I could give a more impressive answer, but honestly, I think I'm somewhere in the middle.
Really? I thought you were going to say you're a morning person.
A lot of people think that, and to be fair, I do enjoy mornings. I like the quiet, I like the slower pace, and I love that feeling when the world is just beginning to wake up. But that doesn't mean I enjoy getting out of bed.
That's a very important distinction.
Exactly. People imagine morning people jumping out of bed at 5 o'clock with huge smiles on their faces. That's definitely not me.
So, what happens when your alarm goes off?
Well, first I stare at the ceiling for a minute and try to remember what day it is. Then I convince myself that getting out of bed is actually a good idea.
That sounds surprisingly familiar.
What about you? Are you a morning person?
I think I am. Not because I have endless energy, but because I genuinely enjoy the feeling of a new day starting. There's something optimistic about mornings.
That's a nice way to describe it.
I love sitting with a cup of coffee when everything is still quiet. No emails, no messages, no distractions. Just a peaceful moment before the day becomes busy.
I completely understand that. It's almost like the day belongs to you for a little while.
Exactly. And I think that's why I enjoy mornings so much. It's not about being productive, it's about having a little space to think.
That's interesting because I actually feel that way at night.
Really?
Yeah, in the evening everything starts to slow down. The work is finished, the phone stops ringing as much, and I finally feel like I can relax.
So maybe you're secretly a night owl after all.
Maybe, although these days I can't stay awake nearly as late as I used to.
I think a lot of our listeners can relate to that.
Probably. When you're younger, staying awake until 2 in the morning feels normal. Now I'm excited if I'm asleep before midnight.
That's very true.
You know, I think what's most important isn't whether you're a morning person or a night owl. It's understanding when you feel your best.
I like that because everyone is different. Some people do their best work early in the morning, others feel most creative late at night.
Exactly. The goal isn't to copy someone else's routine. It's to find a rhythm that works for you.
And speaking of routines, there's one thing I'm really curious about.
What's that?
What's the very first thing you do after you wake up?
Now that's where things get interesting.
So, Oliver, you managed to avoid my question a moment ago. What's the very first thing you do after you wake up?
I knew we were coming back to that. Honestly, the first thing I do is look at the clock. Not my phone, just the clock. I need a few seconds to figure out what time it is and how much of a hurry I'm in.
That's actually very responsible.
The word responsible has never sounded so exciting,
Well, it's better than what a lot of people do.
which is...
Slightly embarrassed, checking their phone immediately.
So we're talking about you now.
Unfortunately, yes. I'm trying to improve, but sometimes, before I'm even fully awake, I'm already looking at messages, emails, and notifications.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. Phones have become part of our morning routine without us even noticing.
Exactly. And the strange thing is that I never feel better after doing it. I always think, maybe I should have waited a little longer.
I know what you mean. I used to do the same thing. And sometimes before I even got out of bed, my mind was already full of information and things I needed to do.
So, what changed?
A few years ago, I decided to make one small change. Instead of looking at my phone first, I started drinking a glass of water.
Just that?
Just that. Nothing dramatic, no complicated morning routine, no waking up at 5 in the morning to run 10 kilometers.
That's good because I wasn't about to do that.
Neither was I, but I noticed that starting my day with something simple and intentional made me feel more awake and more present.
I like that word, intentional, because I think many of us start our mornings on autopilot.
Exactly. We do the same things every day without really thinking about them.
You know, if I could change one thing about my mornings, I think I'd spend less time looking at screens.
And what would you do instead?
Honestly, I'd probably sit quietly with my coffee for a few minutes. No phone, no news, no distractions, just a calm start to the day.
That sounds nice. It's amazing how even 5 minutes of peace can change the feeling of an entire morning.
It really can. And I think that's something people often forget. Small habits don't seem important in the moment, but over time, they become part of who we are.
That's very true. And once the morning is over, most of us move on to the busiest part of the day.
Which brings us to another interesting question. What does a typical workday actually look like for you?
Now that's a much bigger conversation.
So, Oliver, what does a typical workday look like for you?
That's actually harder to answer than it sounds.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't think any day is ever exactly the same, but there are definitely patterns.
I know what you mean. Most people have a routine, even if they don't realize it.
Exactly. For me, once I've had breakfast and started my morning, I usually spend a few minutes planning my day. Nothing complicated. I just like knowing what I need to focus on.
Do you make a list?
Almost every day. Not because I'm super organized. Actually, it's the opposite. If I don't write things down, I start thinking about 10 different things at once.
That sounds very familiar. Sometimes I have so many thoughts in my head that writing them down feels like cleaning a room.
That's a great comparison. It creates a little more space in your mind.
And when do you feel most productive? Morning, afternoon?
Definitely the morning. That's usually when I have the most energy and concentration. If I have something important to do, I try to do it early.
I'm very similar. There are certain tasks that feel easy in the morning, but somehow become much harder later in the day.
Exactly. It's funny how our brains work. The same task can feel completely different depending on the time of day.
Do you take breaks while you're working?
I try to. Whether I always remember to is another question.
So that's a no.
Not always. Sometimes I become so focused on what I'm doing that I forget to stand up for hours.
I think a lot of people do that, especially when they're working on something they enjoy.
That's true, but I've learned that even a short break can make a huge difference. A quick walk, a cup of coffee, a few minutes away from the screen. Sometimes that's all you need.
I completely agree. Whenever I feel stuck, stepping away for a few minutes usually helps more than forcing myself to continue.
That's actually one of the best productivity lessons I've learned. Working harder isn't always the answer. Sometimes working smarter means taking a break.
You know, another challenge is distractions. There are so many things competing for our attention these days.
You're talking about phones again, aren't you?
Maybe, but it's true. One notification can turn into 20 minutes of scrolling before you even realize what's happening.
Absolutely. That's why I try to focus on one thing at a time whenever possible.
And honestly, I think that's something many people are trying to improve. Not just being busy, but being focused.
Exactly. A good workday isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the important things well.
And speaking of important things, there are some surprisingly small habits that can completely change how a day feels.
Now that's a topic I could talk about for hours.
You know, Oliver, we've talked about mornings and work days, but I think some of the most important parts of a routine are actually the smallest ones.
I completely agree. It's funny because when people want to improve their lives, they often look for a big change. A new job, a new schedule, a major goal.
Exactly. But when I look back at the habits that have helped me the most, they're usually very small.
Like what?
Well, one simple habit is making my bed in the morning. And before you laugh, hear me out.
I wasn't going to laugh, although I admit it sounds surprisingly simple.
It is simple. That's the whole point. It takes less than 2 minutes, but it makes me feel like I've started the day with a small accomplishment.
I actually understand that. There's something satisfying about completing a task, even a tiny one.
Exactly. What about you? Do you have a small habit that makes a big difference?
For me, it's taking short walks. Nothing extreme, sometimes just 10 or 15 minutes.
Really?
What do you like about it? I think walking helps me clear my mind. Whenever I spend too much time sitting at a desk, my thoughts start feeling crowded. A short walk seems to reset everything.
I know exactly what you mean. Some of my best ideas come when I'm walking, not when I'm actively trying to solve a problem, just when I'm moving and thinking.
It's strange how that works, isn't it? Sometimes the moment you stop forcing an answer, the answer appears.
That's true. Another small habit I've been trying to improve is reading a little every day, even if it's only 10 minutes.
I love that habit. People often think reading only matters if you do it for hours, but 10 minutes a day adds up surprisingly fast.
Exactly. I think consistency is more important than intensity.
That's a great way to put it. A lot of people can do something difficult for one day. The real challenge is doing something small consistently.
You know, that reminds me of something. When people imagine healthy routines, they often imagine perfect routines.
Which usually don't exist.
Exactly. Nobody follows their routine perfectly every day.
And honestly, I think that's an important lesson. A good routine isn't about perfection. It's about having habits that help you return to what's important, even after a difficult day.
I really like that, because life isn't always predictable. Some days go according to plan, other days don't.
And that's okay. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to keep moving in the right direction.
Speaking of routines, there's one part of the day that looks very different from person to person.
Let me guess. The evening?
Exactly. What people do after a long day can tell you a lot about them. So, Oliver, what do your evenings usually look like?
Honestly, my evenings are very different from my mornings.
How so?
In the morning, I'm usually thinking about what I need to do. In the evening, I'm thinking about slowing down. It's the part of the day when I try to stop rushing and start relaxing.
I know exactly what you mean. It's almost like there's a mental shift that happens when the workday ends.
Exactly. Even if I still have things on my to-do list, I know I need some time to recharge.
What's the first thing you usually do after work?
Most days, I like to take a little break before doing anything else. Nothing complicated. Sometimes I make a cup of tea, sometimes I sit down and listen to music for a few minutes, sometimes I just enjoy the quiet.
That sounds nice. I think a lot of people underestimate how important those transition moments are.
What do you mean?
Well, if I go directly from work to another responsibility without any pause, I start feeling mentally exhausted. Even 10 or 15 minutes can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. It's like giving your brain permission to switch gears.
Do you usually cook dinner?
I try to. The results are not always impressive, but I try.
That's an honest answer.
Let's just say some meals are more successful than others.
I think that's true for everyone.
Actually, one thing I enjoy about cooking is that it forces me to slow down. You can't really rush certain things. You have to pay attention.
That's interesting. I never thought about cooking that way. For me, evenings are often when I catch up on things I've been wanting to do all day.
Like what?
Reading, watching a good series, calling a friend, sometimes just sitting on the couch with a cup of coffee and doing absolutely nothing.
Doing nothing is becoming one of my favorite hobbies.
Honestly, same. When life gets busy, a quiet evening feels like a luxury.
You know what's funny? When I was younger, I thought exciting evenings were the best evenings. Now, a calm evening sounds pretty exciting.
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
I guess our idea of a perfect evening changes over time.
Definitely. These days, I value peace a lot more than I used to.
And I think that's why evening routines matter. They help us recover from the day and prepare for the next one.
That's true. The way we end our day often influences how we start the next one.
Which brings me to a question. If you could change one thing about your daily routine, what would it be?
That's a really good question. So, Oliver, if you could change one thing about your daily routine, what would it be?
That's actually a difficult question. Not because I don't have an answer, but because there are probably several things I could improve.
I think most people feel that way.
Probably. But if I had to choose just one thing, I think I would spend less time looking at screens.
Really?
Yeah. When I add everything together, my phone, my computer, television, it ends up being more time than I'd like to admit.
I can definitely relate to that. Sometimes I pick up my phone to do one quick thing and somehow 20 minutes disappear.
Exactly. And the scary part is that it doesn't even feel like 20 minutes.
That's so true. If I could change one thing about my routine, I think I would be more intentional with my mornings.
In what way?
I would like to start the day a little more slowly. Not slower in terms of productivity, but slower mentally. Instead of immediately thinking about everything I need to do, I'd like to enjoy those first moments of the day a bit more.
I like that. It's amazing how much of our day is spent thinking about what's next, instead of appreciating what's happening right now.
Exactly. We're having breakfast while thinking about work. We're working while thinking about dinner. We're eating dinner while thinking about tomorrow.
That's a very modern problem, isn't it? We're always one step ahead of ourselves.
And somehow we're always surprised when we feel tired.
Very true.
You know, one thing I've learned over the years is that a perfect routine doesn't exist.
I completely agree. Every time I tried to create the perfect schedule, it worked for about 3 days.
3 days is actually pretty good.
Thank you. But eventually, life happens. Plans change. Unexpected things come up.
And I think that's okay. A good routine shouldn't make your life feel rigid. It should make your life feel easier.
Exactly. The purpose of a routine isn't to control every minute. It's to support the life you want to live.
I really like that idea. A routine should work for you, not the other way around.
Absolutely. And even small improvements can make a big difference over time.
Well, before we finish today's episode, we'd love to hear from our listeners.
What's the first thing you do every morning?
And if you could change one thing about your daily routine, what would it be?
Leave a comment and let us know. We always enjoy reading your answers.
Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us.
We hope you enjoyed today's conversation.
Take care, keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next episode of Get Fluent English.
See you next time, everyone.